One thing that really drove me towards Stadia, other than agreeing with his policies, and I think he's very charismatic. I think he's a good leader. He shows good leadership. But the fact that he's been married for a long time, and he shows commitment to his wife. If you can show a commitment to your wife for that long, then you can be committed to your constituents in your state.
Yes.
If you go make a vow or promise, you're going to stick by it. And that's one of the big things that stood out for me with him, because this country was founded on Judeo-Christian values, and I think we've lost that in the age of the internet, in the age of everything's about me. People don't want to have kids anymore. There's no more personal interactions between people. Everything's online, and you have the far left pushing it so far that I forget what they call them, that thinks about don't have kids because they're better off without them. No, I mean the best thing that happened to me in my life was having children, and the way it used to be, you used to have smaller communities. People that got together, people that attended church, and I always say all the time, you don't have to believe in God to believe in values. If you choose not to believe in God, it's the values that actually make us a society, it's not living in the dark ages. That when you're part of a community, when somebody was going through something, if there was a family or a neighbor or somebody in the community that, say, God forbid, it was a widow, her husband died, but she was part of the church community or part of the community. Instead of needing government assistance, you would have community assistance. Everyone would chip in and help out. That's what it was. And you wouldn't have those entitlement programs that were so huge, because you had people taking care of each other, in their communities. And that's what made Americans great. And that's what we got to get back to. That's why I love the fact that Trump always is pushing now that we are one nation under God. And I think, was it today or yesterday was National Prayer Day that he had. He brought up, I think it was today or yesterday. I can't remember. I watched too much news.
The days are starting to blur right now.
Yeah, exactly. But he's pushing it very hard, and he said that's what we need to get back to. We need to get back to, he said Americans only kneel for one person, and that's God. And again, you don't have to believe in God. I know there's people that don't, but I know people that don't believe in God, but still live by the same values. And that's the least you can do. And if you're a productive member of society and you choose not to believe in God, that's your choice. But if you are still a good person that wants to have a family, go to work every day, pay your taxes, live the American dream, and care about others, then that's all I ask for everybody.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the issue here in New Jersey is we're so overtaxed that we don't have anything left over to give.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, they're taking 30% of me and my husband's pay. That doesn't leave us much. 7 kids are a little expensive. We're not millionaires. I graduate with my bachelor's in 10 days. And so I have a job and own a home. So I have to pay for college $14,000 a year. Whereas if I were an illegal or didn't have a job and milked off the government's tit, I could go for free. So that is, and I'll tell you, part of the issue is the education, because in college, I was appalled at the things they are exposing 19 and 20-year-old kids to. There is rainbow stuff everywhere through the college. There is transgender support groups, and there's no, are you struggling with money and food? There's that I ain't posted, but if, are people not, are people misgendering you? Call this number.
Yeah.
When did that become such an issue? It's totally out of control. The left has infiltrated the education system.
Absolutely.
And you can't tell me it's normal to talk about sex to children between kindergarten and 2nd grade. That is absolutely appalling. I have my youngest kids, I pulled out of school during and after COVID because of the state's agenda. I have spoken at the Department of Education in Trenton, and they don't care what. We sat up there for 9 hours in Trenton before they voted to put this curriculum in, and we were there. Hundreds and hundreds of people waited to speak, and at the end of the day, they voted just the same way they were going to vote before we spoke. So Trenton right now is as blue as it can be, and they don't care what anybody has to say.
Well, hopefully we got some red people going heading up the Trenton right now.
Yeah, I'm hoping.
And I'll bring it up too. Once more, I always talk about